Live. I've got some special guests in the studio with me tonight. I have above me Bill Allen, and over on other side is Sydney Marshburn. This show tonight is sponsored by Click Medical. So I want to say, first of all, a big thank you to Click Medical for their continued support last year and this year, and hopefully some more in the future as well. For those of you watching the replay, I love how you guys ask your questions, leave me your comments, and even if you just put replay in the comments section, I do go back after the show is over to check to see if there's any questions that I can pick up for you guys or any comments that you guys want to make. So we're going to give you guys a couple minutes to jump on board. We have a really wonderful show tonight, and I've already had just a really great response from many of you from just some of the social media postings that I've had leading up to this show. So Sydney, how have you been? You've had a busy couple of weeks.
I have, yeah. So I actually got back from Orlando. I met you, and it was super fun.
Yeah.
The Amputee Coalition conference, and yeah, that was so great. It was my Amputee Coalition, so really cool to not only be there as an exhibitor and as a speaker, so as just an attendee who was experiencing it all for the first time. And I got back and I was diagnosed with COVID, and this morning was the first day I tested negative. So fingers crossed we're on the right path.
Well, I really, really, really appreciate you. And I know, Bill, you were feeling under the weather as well. So I appreciate both of you coming to the show tonight, because I know right about this time, as I know it's my bedtime normally. So I appreciate you all being here despite not feeling well. So thank you again. Folks, we got some folks popping on board. We've got Emily from Central PA. We've got Mike from New York. We've got Scott there from West Virginia. Scott, just to let you know, I'm still doing some research on the prosthetic foot question that you asked me. I have not forgotten about you. We've got Jesse from Wisconsin. We got Jamie from Click Medical in the house right there. We got Richard from Arkansas. We got a nice little crew here tonight. We got Tom. There's my Canuck right there. Bill, can you see the little ticker tape on the right side of your screen with all the comments?
Yeah, I can. I'm fixated on it right now.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, I have a wonderfully interactive and engaging audience. So I call it the New York Times, Stock Exchange ticker tape that goes down there with all the questions. We've got Tammy from Virginia, Lulu from Boston, Massachusetts, and your first time coming on board. Well, I appreciate you coming on board. And guys, just so you reminder, I am broadcasting from both my YouTube and to my Facebook channels, because I know some folks sometimes have a hard time finding me on Facebook. All right, we've got, so Emily has got her VB Strawberry Kiwi Sparkling Energy drink tonight. Guys, cheers to everybody. I hope you guys brought something to drink. I've got my Click Medical Yeti mug. Bill, we got to get you one of those, man, so you can be one of the cool kids. So guys, this is going to be our giveaway tonight. And I love my Yeti mugs with my decaf coffee. Sydney, what are you drinking?
Just water.
You've been under the weather, so you're allowed to bring water onto the show tonight. Hey, Jim. All right, guys, we have got a really nice crew on board, so we're going to go ahead and get started. For those of you joining us the first time, welcome. My name is Kelsey Belloso. I'm a physical therapist amputee specialist here in Tampa, Florida. With me tonight, I have the amazing Sydney Marshburn, who is no stranger. This is now her second time on the show. And I have her prosthetist, Bill Allen from Agile Orthopedics over in Colorado. Yes, I got it right?
Yes.
Wonderful. So guys, tonight we have a really special show. One of the big soapboxes that I have on this show the past 5 years I've been broadcasting, I talk about the relationship between practitioner and patient, whether it's your prosthetist or your physical therapist, and how important it is to have a good relationship with your clinician. And I know many times over the years, many of you have emailed me problems that you were having, either with communication or you felt like your care was not going in the direction it needed to go to, and you weren't sure how to handle it. And interestingly, on social media, this was it yesterday? Yesterday, I think I posted, how many of you like your clinician, whether it's your prosthetist or your physical therapist? And out of all the different polls that I took, about 75% of you are very happy with your clinicians, which made me very happy too. Right? But 25% of you said, yeah, things are not going great and we just aren't sure what to do. So tonight we're going to be talking a lot about that. Yes?
Yes.
Sounds good. Okay, we've got a lot of people coming on board here. I love this. Hey there, Clarence, and we've got Kays. So guys, before we get started, we've had giveaways because I love my giveaways. So Jamie is going to post a link to the Click Medical quiz, right? So as you guys know, Click Medical are the makers of the RevoFit adjustable system. This is one of my favorite adjustable socket technologies out there on the market, right? So when Jamie posts that link, if you can do a right click and take that quiz before the end of the show, you can get a raffle entry into the giveaway. And even if you've already taken the quiz, go ahead and take it again because they changed a few things on there. Yes? All right, let's get started on the good stuff. So Bill, I've done a lot of talking. I want you to do some talking and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've actually I had my first healthcare job in 1989. So it's been a long time working in healthcare. Started as a physical therapist assistant, working for NovaCare, working in skilled nursing facilities. And so that was an associate's degree that I had. And a few years later, I finished my bachelor's degree in exercise physiology and did a few things in that field. Worked in corporate wellness, personal training, just teaching health and fitness classes. And then I ended up getting back into the PT arena. Did that for a few years. And then I decided I wanted to go back to school, and I was planning on getting my doctorate in physical therapy. Mm-hmm. And then I discovered prosthetics. There was a physician, a physiatrist, actually, a rehab doctor, that had moved his practice into our building. He was an amputee specialist. His practice was focused on, it was actually Amputee Services of America. And so he started doing in-services with us just to teach us about amputee rehab. And then he started sending us his patients. And I just really enjoyed working with the amputees. And after I started doing that, I didn't really want to do anything else.
So you're a real underachiever there, first a physical therapist and then eventually.
Yeah. So I did that for a little bit, and started looking into volunteering, looking into schools, started applying to schools, and I got into Cal State Dominguez Hills in 2004, and 20 years later, almost, here I am.
As a prosthetist.
Yeah.
So I got to ask, because I think to myself, I'm like, wow, if I knew then what I know now, right? Would have been able to study both professions. How do you feel that your background as a physical therapist has helped you now as a prosthetist?
I know that I have a little different approach than my peers. And a lot of it's from, when I was working with the amputees in the PT setting, sometimes the prosthetist was there with me to make, when you're progressing patients, you need adjustments. As somebody gets used to a prosthesis, they get more confident, start walking a little bit more aggressively, shifting their weight a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Usually you have to accommodate that with adjustments. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times the prosthetist wasn't there. And so we had to kind of work things out, by, engaging different muscles a little bit more, disengaging other muscles, and just trying to problem solve, work through things without adjustments. And so now as a prosthetist, when I'm encountering the same things, rather than being quick to make adjustments, I usually try to get patients to kind of work things out first. If they're walking and they're a little unstable, moving a little too far side to side, rather than outsetting their knee or their foot, I would rather see if they can engage their hip abductors a little bit more. So I always tell patients I don't really like to accommodate weaknesses. There's really no benefit to doing that long term. They're just going to continue to be weak. So I like to push that as far as I can, and I'm a little stubborn that way. And eventually I'll compromise. But yeah, I just in general don't like to accommodate weakness. I like to do other things first. So I think that's a little different approach than most people, I think.
No, and that's absolutely a wonderful approach. I actually love that approach. I've also talked on the show how sometimes the physical therapist will look at a patient one way and the prosthetist will look at the patient the other way. And one of the biggest challenges is figuring out what's coming from where. Is the gait deviation coming from a weakness, a lack of range of motion, a lack of balance, bad habits, or is there actually a true alignment issue or issue coming from the prosthesis?
Right.
And yes, sometimes I've been, especially when I work with some of the younger prosthetists, I'm usually the one kind of holding their hand just a moment saying, wait, let me just see if I can work it out. Let me see if I can work it out before we start cranking on them. Let's see if we can work it out and see if it's coming from them and something that we can correct.
Right.
So no, props to you. I absolutely love that approach. We have got a lot of comments coming in here. So let me just see if I can pick up a few of the hellos that we're getting in here. Compadre, good to see you, man. Emily says that her physiatrist is also an amputee specialist. Let's see, we got Comadre here as well. Tammy says, oh, the video cut off. Hopefully it's back, Tammy. Let's see. Emily says there were some transparency issues with my first prosthetist and my new one has more experience and the lab for the prosthesis is on scene. It wasn't at the other location. Hey, Jamie, glad you could join us. Elaine says, I can certainly see how those two professions can complement each other. Yes, Elaine, when it comes to the recovery from amputation, limb loss, prosthetists and PTs go together like peanut butter and jelly. Prosthetists build the car, PTs teach them how to drive the car. So that's kind of one of my favorite analogies. So Sydney, it's your turn now. We want to hear about you. So you told us your beautiful and amazing story a couple of months ago, but a lot of folks, new folks here this evening, and the folks who have already heard it might need a refresher. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so like Cozy said, my name is Sydney, and I'm a left above knee amputee. And on the 25th, it will be 2 years post-op. So,
wow.
Great that. Yeah, very fun. So I grew up as an athlete, and for my life, I was going to go to college for swim, a butterflyer, right? Well, a lot of my eggs were in that basket. And then I got sick, and I was diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a disorder. And, it was something that I was diagnosed with my senior year in high school, but I had problems whole life. My dad's in the Navy, so we move around every 2 years, and we were never in a place long enough to say, well, this is all connected somehow, and all of your issues have an underlying theme, right? It was just they would treat the specific symptom, but no one would put the puzzle pieces together. So when a senior in high school, I was diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and spondylolisthesis. Because of the spondylolisthesis would go from a grade 2 to a grade 4. So
I'm going to pause for a moment, Sydney. I apologize for interrupting, but there's some folks who may not know what Ehlers-Danlos is. Can you give an explanation to that, please?
So Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is a connective tissue disorder that's caused by a defect in collagen. So how I like to explain it to people is people with Ehlers-Danlos are held together by cheap chewing gum, essentially, where everyone else is held together by Gorilla Glue, right? So all of they dislocate, they sublux, like it's not fun. But if you think about it, collagen is pretty much the body system that you have. So anywhere there's collagen, you can have things that affected. So for me, that was my organs were having issues. My skull started detaching, and I had severe brainstem compression. So 11 months before I lost my leg, I actually had to fuse down to my C3, and that saved my life. And then the amputation saved my life again. And like in between that, it was just inpatient surgery after inpatient surgery. And I will always laugh because the only surgery I've ever had on my left leg, on my knee, was the amputation. That was it. Like I didn't have any meniscus tears. I didn't have anything like that. It was just, that was the amputation. But I had my spinal fusion after my senior year of high school before I was going to college. And this was a lumbar spinal fusion. And, the surgery did whatever it was supposed to do. So nothing went wrong. It was just how my body reacted. and it caused a rare complication in my left leg where it would burn from the inside out, and it would cause these infections that would last 7 months at a time. So it was a really hard few years. I was fused when I was 18, and I lost my leg when I was 22. The last set of infections started going septic, and it became life-threatening. So my leg had to go right then and there.
Excuse me for interrupting again, was it CRPS, the complex regional pain syndrome? And I mentioned that because I have, ironically enough, even though it's not very common, I have many viewers that have CRPS. So if they're watching tonight, I want them to know that this is what you've overcome. Yes.
Definitely.
So you had the amputation.
I did.
And again, 2 years ago. Holy cow. Less than 2 years ago, actually. And then what?
And then, well, okay, so I like to be independent. And so I decided the next day I was going to hop up and do things that I was supposed to, I was just going to get back on my foot. And I ended up falling in the hospital and had to have another emergency surgery. So my residual limb was not happy with me. We did not have the best introduction to each other. But, ever since then, I've relied on prosthetic care. I've relied on the adaptations you have to make in order to live the life you wish. And I recently moved to Denver, Colorado for my job with the Range of Motion Project. Shout out to an outreach. And and that's actually where I got in contact with Bill, became my practitioner. So this is all still really new. I moved here over Memorial Day weekend.
Yes, you haven't stopped. I mean, I'm listening to this and I'm just sitting there going, you're so young. You've already not only been so much, accomplished so much, and you keep going. So it's truly amazing. So how long have you been now with Bill?
Since early June, probably.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So
I missed 5 weeks though. So it started off a little rough. I had an injury, a bad injury, and then followed by a complex surgery. So I was out for a bit. So she was very patient.
Excellent. So here's one of the questions that I have. So Sydney, your first prosthetist, I understand you had a pretty good relationship with that prosthetist. So moving, how did you look for the new prosthetist, especially when you had a good relationship with the previous one and you're sitting there probably going, I don't want to leave my old prosthetist. How do I find that new one?
Right. Yeah. And it was the first time I actually ever had to choose a prosthetist. So old prosthetic team Bulow worked with my surgeon. So I met them the day after my surgery. They fitted my and that, right? And I think at that time it took so much stress off of, now how do I do this? I had so many other things on my mind that I had to worry about that, having had a choice almost made for me just for sheer they work with my surgeon was but it came time for me to move from Tennessee to Colorado. I started panicking, right? Like I never had to make this big of a decision before, and there were many sleepless nights. I was anxious about it, and I actually ended up being Eric Neufeld, who is the head of orthopedic. I met him in Nashville at the academy meeting, and he told me, hey, this is where you'll be working here, prosthetists in the area. If you want to be an agile patient, it would make the most sense because we share an office space, and it's a shop. If I need adjustments, I just go to work, which is pretty cool. But
nice.
Yeah, and then I actually into some other patients that definitely go to Bill. Like above knee amputees are his art form, right? So that's I've heard that is Bill's specialty, and they were like, if you can wait to see Bill, like it will be worth it. And so
it's worth the wait.
Oh, definitely.
Wonderful. So I just want to answer this question. Louise is asking, what does RAKA mean? That stands for right above knee amputee. So Louise, I know you're kind of Lulu, you're a first comer to the show, so that we have a few abbreviations that we'll be using, but don't be shy about asking. So folks, let's do a quick COSI poll. How many of you, okay, was your first prosthetist chosen for you by your surgeon, the way that Sydney's was? So I want to hear yes, no, me, no, not me, yes, no. Just put it in the comment section. How many of you had your first prosthetist chosen for you by your surgeon? Okay. And then the follow-up question to that is, how many of you knew that that wasn't necessarily what you had to do? In Sydney's case, it came out. Oh, wow. That got a lot of response real quick. So Elaine says me, Racine says me, Drew says nope, Jean says me, Megan says yes, Starla no, Lulu says no. Okay, so for those of you who are kind of new to being an amputee, or maybe some of you who are even approaching your first amputation, just so you're aware, in Sydney's case, it worked out well. That the prosthetist that was recommended to her by her surgeon was a good relationship from the first start. But just so you know, you're not required to take the prosthetist that you are presented with at the hospital, okay? And this is sometimes where a lot of folks are confused. And like Sydney said, you're just post-op, you are just trying to get your head on straight right after having this major surgery and trying to figure out what your life is, okay? So someone puts a clinician in front of you and you want to be able to trust that first person, okay? But just so you know, that's not necessarily what has to happen. And oftentimes I recommend to folks, especially if you know you're going in for your amputation, it's okay to interview your prosthetist before your amputation. I've had some of you who did that, right? So Bill, have you had anybody before their amputation come and interview you as a prosthetist before they had their amputation done?
I have, yeah.
How often is that something you see a lot? Is that something that's common for you?
You know, when I owned my own practice, I actually shared an office with, you know, as I mentioned earlier, the physiatrist that had moved into our building. Eventually, I teamed up with him again, and we shared a space for a long time. And so when a patient would come in to see him, they would eventually come to see me and interview me. So that was pretty common in that situation. Not so much anymore, though.
Okay.
Just different circumstances.
And then how, as a prosthetist, from the prosthetist standpoint, how do you feel about patients coming to interview you from prior to their amputation?
I mean, I think it's a good idea. I think it's great that they exercise that right to do that, because as you were saying, some people they have somebody kind of assigned to them in the hospital post amputation, and they don't know that they have a choice. And that's something that I often remind people, that especially when they're not happy with what's going on, they can do whatever they want to do. They're controlling the situation. And a lot of times they just don't know that.
And bless you, Sydney. So guys, this is what I want you to hear. You know, so from the clinician, I know I say it all the time, that for me, I'm not offended at all if someone comes to interview me just to see if they want to be my patient or not, right? This is an investment in their time, and sometimes in their finances and in their health, right? So you want to make sure you have the right practitioner, especially since the prosthetist and the physical therapist are theoretically going to be with you the rest of your life, right? These are services that you're going to need for the rest of your life, okay? So let's see. Denise says, my prosthetist was chosen by the surgeon, was a great fit, very fortunate. Jim says, somewhat, as they put a shrinker on me in the hospital and I stuck. I didn't know I had a choice, right? Denise also said she had no idea. Linda says, yes, and I'm still with mine. And Richard says, nope, I pick my own specialist. And Drew says, I'm on my 4th prosthetist, right? Jessie says that yes, but she didn't know she had a choice, okay? So folks, for those of you who have already been amputees for a little while and you have this experience under your belt, you know, hopefully this is one of those pearls of wisdom that you impart to people that you might be mentoring, you know, somewhat down the line in terms of the relationship with their prosthetist and their physical therapist, okay? So guys, we're gonna do another giveaway, okay? So Jamie, my girl Jamie, is gonna post the Instagram handle and also the Facebook page, because I know some of you folks do not do Instagram, so we want to make sure we include everybody. But we're going to do the Instagram handle for Click Medical and then the Facebook post, okay? When she posts those links, right? Click on the link and go to the COSI post. There's a COSI post that they put out about me. And I want you to say in that post, what is the most important thing to you when it comes to partnerships with your provider, whether it's your physical therapist, your doctor, or your prosthetist. All right, so I'm going to repeat that one more time, right? Sydney, Jamie's going to post the links. Let's see, and she's already posted the Facebook link. And what I want you guys to do is go to that post, the COSI Talks post that they did there, and tell me what's the most important part for you as far as your relationship with your practitioner. So Lulu says, I am stuck with mine and now left. I'm trying out a new one and she seems nice. So Sydney, when it comes to giving advice to amputees, right? And even though you're only 2 years out, I know you've got a lot of experience under your belt right now. What would you tell folks that are not really happy with their practitioner, right? And are looking for a new prosthetist or physical therapist? What would you tell them to how to start looking?
Yeah, I would say probably social media would be your best bet. So for me, that was a lot of like Facebook groups and support groups and reaching out to people who were like, okay, what's the feeling, right? Because obviously every practitioner is going to be the same for every person, right? Everyone has different experiences, but you know, if you get enough feelings, like this prosthetist, I can go check them out. You know, I can give them interview them. Like you said earlier, you don't necessarily the one that you interview. And I think, wait, is this one? Okay, because it keeps. Is it working for you guys? Okay, cool. Sorry. But I would say using social media, utilizing the resources, the tools, getting out there and figuring out, okay, well, maybe this prosthetist, enough people have good things to say about them. Let's see for myself. And, you know, sometimes hopefully that'll be the best situation for you. And you'll be, you know, link up with that prosthetist and they will be your practitioner. But, you know, sometimes it's not. And I think signs you need to watch out for. You need someone who listens to you, right? Obviously, there's going to be some things that your prosthetist knows better than you because, you know, generally in the field long at it from a prosthetic kind of way. But there are times where, you know, they can take that experience. Like, you know, if you want to say, I want a click system on my reel, heard from people, well, my prosthetist is super old, he doesn't want to put one on there, or, you know, and it's just the lack of wanting to explain themselves, explain their way of thinking. A lot of people can come on my way or the highway, and that can be both for patients and prosthetists, right? Like, you know, you've one who can meet you at the middle, even if there's something that you guys don't agree on. And you guys are willing to talk about that. And for me, that's been something that I actively look forward to, like in these kind of relationships. And I think the other thing would be, are they willing to accept feedback, right? Like for me, I am a chronic people pleaser, right? I'm working on that. Like that is something that's really hard for me. So of course, I'm not going to say anything when issues or makes me like it has to be really bad before I say anything, right? And there a couple weeks ago I was in the office with Bill and he was saying, is this actually how you feel? Is this just what you think I want to hear? And like that kind of stopped me in my tracks because I had, and then I realized, well, okay, this is a problem and this needs to be fixed and that kind of thing. And so if you have a prosthetist who is more about evoking their own ego, or just, saying that they're right all the time and you don't know what you're talking about, that would be something I would actually start looking for a different practitioner with.
So Bill, on that note, what are some red flags that you've recognized among colleagues? I know I have red flags among my own colleagues that you've recognized that you're just like, yeah, that's not good, not a good fit, and things that people should be on the lookout for.
Oh, there's an echo. Ooh. So I actually met 2 new prospective patients yesterday that were very good examples of this. And not being heard. One of them had been complaining. He had a prosthesis for about 4 years, and for 4 years he's been complaining about the height, feeling like it was off, and causing back problems, hip problems, knee problems. And every time he would see his prosthetist, he would say, "No, it's fine, it's fine." And so for 4 years he's had pain. And 4 years in pain is an eternity, and so I literally fixed, assessed the situation, determined that he was a half an inch too short on his prosthesis, and fixed something in 10 minutes that he'd been trying to fix for 4 years. And that's an example of not listening. And am I still echoing, or am I okay? Oh, good. And then I saw another patient, same day, a little bit later, a guy he was a new amputee and just didn't really know what's normal, what's not normal, and got his prosthesis, and by the time he got home, he already had blisters from it. And when I saw him yesterday, he had wounds all over his leg. His lower leg was covered in Band-Aids, and his prosthetist told him that's something he has to get used to, is blood and sores, and to not go see him until he's up to 12 sock ply. So,
oh my word.
Yeah, it's pretty disturbing.
Wow.
But he doesn't know any better, but now he does. I told him, you need to go back. It's only been 3 weeks. You need to go back and insist that he make adjustments. And yeah, it's and
or oof, I don't know, that's a case where I would say, well, maybe not. It has to come from the patient themselves, but you need to find yourself a new prosthetist, honestly.
Yeah, and that's not the first time I've heard that from a patient that they've been told that blood is normal. I've seen some gory things in the last 20 years. So
yeah. And guys, for the record, getting blisters and getting open skin and getting wounds and walking in those wounds and using your socket when you have big gaping wounds, not normal. And like Bill, I've had some folks who thought that was okay and that was to be expected, and it's not. So
no, absolutely not.
Which, by the way, guys, if any of you right now want to ask in the comment section, hey, is this normal? Hey, is this normal? Now's the time to ask these questions, and we're happy to answer them. So how many of you, here's another COSI poll. How many prosthetists have you all, or physical therapists, because I gotta put my PT colleagues there. We gotta throw those under the bus too. How many of you had in your lifetime as an amputee? Go ahead and put that into the comments section. I want to see some numbers there. Jesse says, I want them to listen to me, not put me down. I always feel so abused when I leave a prosthetist office. Guys, that's not the feeling that you should have. That's not and I speak both from a practitioner standpoint and also from a personal standpoint. Some of you might know I have a history with cancer. And as hard as that was, whenever I left my oncologist office, I always felt encouraged. I always felt uplifted, and I always felt supported. And that was even in the thick of cancer when I might have been getting some really bad news or really bad things going on. That's what you should be feeling from your clinicians, even if you're having a tough time. And guys, even with the best of prosthetists, you're going to have setbacks. You're going to have obstacles. People are going to be scratching their heads going, all right, what do we do now? How do we fix this? But you should never leave the office feeling abused or feeling dejected or somehow spoken down to. Doctor, prosthetist, physical therapist. Let's see. We've got Louise saying starting on my second. Rudy says I've had 4 prosthetists and 1 physical therapist. Okay. And guys, from the physical therapy standpoint, same thing. If your physical therapist is putting you on a hot pack and then on a bicycle for 10 minutes and calling that treatment, that's not treatment. Okay. So if you feel like with your physical therapist, things are not progressing, your needs are not being met, maybe the physical therapist is not doing their homework and learning what they need to learn about your prosthesis so that they can help you, it all applies to them as well. We've got a lot of comments here. Okay. Lulu says, I can't count how many PTs. Okay. So Bill, let's talk about that first visit with patients. What information do you like patients to bring to you in their first visit with you?
Yeah, it depends on if they're a long-standing patient or a new patient.
Okay.
If it's somebody who's been an amputee for a long time, I really want to know their history. I don't want to go through this process of making mistakes that the patient's already been through. If they've already tried something and it didn't work, I want to know their history, what they've had good experiences with, what they've had bad experiences with, and not repeat mistakes just because I think I know better. So I value just a really good historical account of what they've experienced, good and bad. A new patient, I don't know that they really need anything other than what their life was like prior to amputation, what their life's now, and where they're heading, what their goals are, ambitions. Yeah.
And I'm gonna go back to a statement, and Sydney, I'm gonna botch up how you worded this, but you said it so beautifully that after amputation, you were ready to get back to living, and just the way your approach on how to get back to life. And I thought you worded that just so beautifully. And folks, that's what you need to bring also to your prosthetist and to your physical therapist. I know that I like to know what it is that my patients want to be able to do with their prosthesis. Like what it is that they want to get back to. What do their lives look like? Like Bill said, what did their lives look like before amputation? And what do they hope that they will look like after amputation? Sydney, what other things can you think about that folks should be communicating to their prosthetist or physical therapist?
Yeah, I would say definitely if you have any kind of issue whatsoever, document, take pictures, bleed, take pictures, write it down, go through, okay, this is what I felt, this is what was happening. And, if you want to shower them with some good news, like, don't just, take note of the negative. Oh, well, this is working. This could be better. This is what's going on today. It's all about, like, your prosthetist is not the one who's going to be wearing your leg. So at the end of the day, you need to be really honest with yourself and with your prosthetist on, hey, I like this. This maybe needs an adjustment. Kind of thing. That's what my 2 cents would be.
No, and the 2 cents, it's actually worth a little more. We're going to bump it up to 5 cents with that one. And so I just wanted to announce our one of our giveaway winners this evening. So Scott, congratulations. You're the winner for the Instagram and Facebook giveaway. But I do want to read out one of the comments that one of you posted because it was just such a lovely comment. Sorry, I'm pulling it up right now. Denise answered that the most important thing about the relationship with the prosthetist is their ability to listen to my concerns, but also I must be able to tell them the truth if something is not working, which is echoing what Sydney just said. So guys, thank you for posting that. We're going to put up our last giveaway for this evening. So I just want to make sure we get all these giveaways in because these Yeti mugs are really, really nice. So Jamie is going to put up the link for the Click Medical Mentor page. Okay. So these are mentors chosen by Click Medical, 2 amazing, amazing people that basically, if you have any questions about Click Medical, about the RevoFit, about the RevoLock, about their new Click Reel, these are folks that can kind of help you through the process because they've been there, tested that, and they got the t-shirt. So Jamie's going to put that link up for us. And I want you guys to tell me the name of one of those mentors. There's 2 of them. All right. And she's going to put it up there. All right. So this is, we've given you some tips and pointers on how to approach things when things are not going great with your prosthetist, but now we need to hear it from the prosthetist standpoint. So Bill, when things are not going the way that you had hoped for during a patient's plan of care, I know I've had lots of those moments with my own patients. How do you approach that with your patient? How do you approach it when you see that your patient is getting frustrated?
I think the important thing is that they know that I care, first of all. And there's been a few times where I've had to assure them that I'm committed to their success. I'm invested in the process to get them to where they're successful. And if I don't know the answer, I'll find the answer. I don't claim to know everything, but I will do my best to figure out what's going on. If I get to a point where I just can't figure it out, and I think maybe there's something going on intrinsically there, maybe they have bone spurs, neuromas, something that I can't work around. I know a lot of good doctors, plastic surgeons. So I've never had experience where I've said, sorry, I don't know what to do. I can't do anything for you, but there's always some place that we go with it. So I never leave anybody hanging.
Okay. And guys, I've echoed that sentiment several times on the show. Many of you have stumped me with an answer, know the answer to, and that's happened to me several times, and also with patients as well. Or sometimes I will see a patient walking down the bars and I go, I don't know what I'm looking at. Okay. We're not gods, we're clinicians, right? So what Bill said, I definitely echo that sentiment and saying, we're always learning. We never stop learning as clinicians and never stop looking for answers. I know that in my case, I still call upon some of my mentors. They've long since retired from the profession, but I always like to say they're going to forget more than what I ever know. So whenever I run into that occasional case where I'm just truly puzzled with what to do, I will consult with some of my mentors or some of my other colleagues in the field to see what they have to say, to try to find that solution and try to find, if I'm not the one who's able to help them, try to find someone who can help. All right. So a lot of comments are coming in, and unfortunately my chat box is frozen, guys. So I do apologize if I'm not reading all of your comments right now. I will go back and check that in a moment. All right. So let's see. We are waiting for that last quiz winner. So Sydney, what would be the advice you would give a brand new amputee in terms of how to find that prosthetist? Just to do a little bit of a recap.
I think maybe keep your sights set on maybe more than one at a time. Always have a backup. And I would say that, honestly, you'll know in the wrong fit for you. It comes you have to trust the person, right? For me, I actually have been assaulted by not a prosthetist, but before I lost my leg when I was in high school. So I don't trust doctors easily, right? And as a above knee amputee, you are in vulnerable positions. You're essentially, it's a very intimate and vulnerable experience, right? And so me, knowing that, I trust Bill completely and would follow him into battle, it makes, the world of a difference. If you can't trust the provider you're working with, or you can't trust the provider to have your best interest in their mind, that would be something that, gut feeling oh, maybe this isn't right for me. Don't stick it out. Your gut feeling will tell you, hey, I need to check my backup or look for more on the patient. That would be my advice to new amputees. Also, and be willing to listen to what your prosthetist say, because you don't want to oh, well, I'm the one wearing the limb, so I know what's best. You also need to be able to listen to their years of experience, because this is not new for them. This is something they have gone to school for. This is something been in this industry probably a lot longer than you've known about the industry. So don't with, a grain of salt. You guys got to come together and, okay, here's my experience, but here's your experience to make this work.
And the compromise.
Yeah.
Meeting in the middle, like you mentioned before. So Jesse's saying, I've wasted 8 months. I hope the new prosthetist will help me. And here's how I see it, Jesse. You can't take back those 8 months, but use it as a learning experience. If anything, now you really know how hopefully the new prosthetist should look like. And certainly you know about those red flags, and you'll know hopefully to identify them if they happen with this new prosthetist. So Bill, let's talk a little bit about the Click Medical side of things, right? When did you start using RevoFits with your patients?
I think when I started working with Agile, it's just something that they do a lot. And, I jumped on board with that. It's nice for the patient to have a little bit of control over their socket fit. And I think it ultimately keeps them in their socket longer because there's a lot more adjustability to accommodate volume loss. And I suspect that other companies would prefer that they don't stay in their sockets very long because they can make new ones and make some more money. But and I get that, but it's I would say a couple of years that I've been using them a lot more frequently.
Okay. And then if there's some folks out there that they've heard me talk a lot about the RevoFit adjustable socket on the show, and unfortunately some of them have come and said, my prosthetist doesn't want to talk to me about adjustable socket. What would be your recommendation to those folks? How maybe they can open up that communication with their reluctant prosthetist?
I guess find some leverage somewhere, get a second opinion, talk to somebody else. Yeah, if they're not listening, if they're not open to doing that, then you should go to someone who will listen to you.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just a little narrow-minded and suspicious, I think.
Yeah. And then folks, I've said it on the show, Click Medical is not the only adjustable socket technology out there. It's the one that I prefer. I happen to really, really like their design. But if you feel like adjustable socket is something that would help you, your prosthetist should be able to explain the why behind it. So if they're reluctant to have you try adjustable socket technology, they should have a good reason behind it, and they should be able to explain that to you. If they don't have a good reason, or they can't seem to want to explain things to you, like Bill said, that's kind of a red flag right there. So whether it's because they have just their horse blinders on and they just like one particular thing, or perhaps they don't know enough about the product itself, and they need a little encouragement to maybe go visit a Click Medical website where they have a lot of information there for clinicians to look at. All right. I think we've got our quiz winner. So guys, our quiz winner for this evening is Chuck. And then our other winner is Drew McCormack. So guys, we have Chuck, Scott, and Drew are the 3 big winners for this evening for the Yeti mugs. So guys, I'm going to go ahead and type in my email. For those of you who are our winners, please send me an email with your address so that Click Medical can send you your Yeti mug. And for those of you who are newcomers to the show is for you, right? I bring on special guests, but it's also for you asking your questions. So folks like Lulu, if you have any other questions, and actually Lulu, if you could send me that question to my email, I do answer my emails within 2 days. And guys, I will go back because I know I've missed some of the comments. My computer decided to slow down on me there. So if I missed your question, please feel free to send it to me at this email. If you have any questions about Click Medical, if you have any questions for Sydney or for Bill, go ahead and email them to me there, and I'll make sure that they get those questions for this evening. So guys, just want to say a huge thank you, first of all, to Click Medical for sponsoring me, not only for this evening, for the past almost 2 years now. Very big thank you to Sydney for once again sharing your time and sharing your story, even though you were not feeling great this past week. And Bill, thank you for coming to the hot seat. Hopefully this won't be your one and only time on the show. We loved having you here, and thank you for all the experience that you gave us this evening and shared with us.
Thanks.
So guys, with that, we are going to go ahead and sign off. Next week is going to be a general Q&A. So there's my email, guys. Start sending me those questions. And as always, guys, thank you for letting us be a part of your lives this evening. I will see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Bye, guys.